Okay, let's roll. 1, 2, 3.
Sure.
So, it's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. Well, this may be a little bit difficult to understand if you are not a native speaker of English. So let's analyze the pieces.
Sure.
First of all, what do we mean when we say to get a man to understand? Well, what's the difference between getting someone to do something and making them do something? Well, to get him to do something is to convince him to do it, to persuade him to do it. To make him is to force him, or to use a difficult word, to coerce him. So, here's an example. I made him do it means I forced him to do it. And I got him to do it means I convinced him to do it. I talked him into doing it.
I talked him into doing it.
So
that's a good one. Yeah.
So now, if you look at the wording, I made him do it, but I got him to do it. So when you get someone to do something, you have to get him to do it. So the wording is a little different. So, okay, now, when his salary depends on X, his salary depends on it means his income depends on it.
Right.
So, for example, if you were a salesman, you have a quota. In Japan, people don't have a quota. Maybe they have norma. So, if you were a salesman, your salary depends on meeting your quota.
Meeting your quota.
If you don't meet your quota, this will be bad for you. Maybe you will be fired. Maybe your salary will be reduced. Anyway, it's not good. That's for sure. So, his salary depends on his not understanding it. Now, what does this mean? This is a little bit ironic. So let's go back to the original phrase now and put all the pieces together. So, it's difficult to get a man to understand something. That is, to persuade him to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. Now, this is a little ironic. What this means, his salary depends on his pretending not to understand it. Maybe he really understands it, but he pretends not to understand it. So, let's take an example from my own field. It's difficult to get a man to understand that earthquakes can't be predicted when his salary depends on his not understanding it. So, what this means is, すべての地震学者は現時点では正確な地震予知はできないと分かってますよ。分かってない人はいないんです。ところが、地震予知という予算名目で自分の給与が出てるならば、地震の予知はできないと認めたくない。認めたらクビだということになりますね。そうすると彼らはどうするかっていうと、嘘つきになりたくないので、地震予知はできないと言わないが、地震予知は大変困難であると言えば、楽しみに毎日毎日給与をもらい続くことができます。So this is what it means. It's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it, depends on his pretending not to understand it, is what this is really saying.
Can we go back to the original?
Yes, let's go back to the original.
So this sentence, it's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. Would you say that most Americans would understand what it means?
I think this is very famous. Upton Sinclair was a famous writer about 100 years ago, and also a political activist. So I think maybe a high school dropout might not understand this, but any college graduate would probably understand it without any problem.
Oh, I see.
So it's being a little bit ironic. So if we write out the not ironic meaning on his pretending.
On his pretending.
Not to understand it.
Understand it.
Okay, so we'll see you tomorrow. And before you go, maybe you want to try a couple of simple problems. Question 1. 最もありそうもない選択肢はどれか。正解は C. Living at home. では、Question 2. 下線部に常識的適切なものを選べ。A は正解です。正解は B です。では、See you next week!